Good morning. The Nicholas and Tuttle families and their lawyers are here this morning to update developments in their continuing investigation of the HPD Harding Street murders. We're going to update legal filings that have been made today and the status of the family's pursuit for justice. You're going to hear from Michael Doyle, Chuck Bork, and Boynton Smith, legal counsel for the Nicholas and Tuttle families. And then you're going to hear from Patricia Nicholas and Clifford Tuttle about where the families feel where we are almost 4 years after these killings. With that, we'll provide the legal filings. We've got those if you need them, and we'll be able to provide that stuff by email as well afterwards. So with that, we'll begin with Michael Doyle.
Good morning. I'm Mike Doyle, one of the attorneys for the family of Regina Nicholas. I'm here with Chuck Bork, my co-counsel, as well as Patricia Nicholas, the sister-in-law, and we're here on a very important day for a lot of reasons. One of them is tomorrow is the year anniversary of the death of John Nicholas, who many of y'all know led the charge to get the answers and was instrumental in pushing this forward, and his wife and the representative of the estate is here today for that. But probably more directly, as we're approaching 4 years, nearly, after the murder of Regina Nicholas and her husband in their own home, we are seeing, and after being promised transparency repeatedly by the mayor, by the police chiefs, by the police managers, we're here now because we've seen year after year every single important question concealed from the public. And probably most telling, not a single one of the squad that attacked their home has stood trial, whether in state or federal court. And as we've seen the developments across the country in Minneapolis and Louisville, where there has been a transparency, true accountability for police misconduct, it's tellingly not present here, no matter what the promises we've heard. That's a failure of the system we have here now, and that's why the family has taken this important step today to file the documents to be able to break through to trial without any possibility of further delay. Because while the family know and have been working as hard as possible to get the answers in the suit that's filed not too long ago to get the answers, the basic facts about what we heard repeatedly called the heroes have been concealed from the public and everyone who really does know by a deliberate decision by this administration, city, and the police department to spend millions and millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, to continue to conceal, to abuse a protective order entered by a federal judge in good faith, to ask questions about what really happened back there in January 2019. And that is why together today the families made the decision to remove every single individual officer from the personal accountability that they so richly deserve in this civil action, to be able to push their case through every single one of the obstacles thrown up towards a trial where an accounting that has been delayed for too long will finally be heard. And so there's really two important takeaways. The first is, at this point, every single excuse, there's no officer charged with actually murder, there's a felony murder charge. Every single excuse that the city, the police department has given for concealing what happened that day is removed. Every single obstacle to actually letting the family put these folks under oath who were involved to investigate, they're gone. And what that means is these answers that the families know, with this filing today in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals by both families, has removed every single one of those excuses to the public transparency that we now know is a meaningless promise years and years and years later. There's important questions like, why can Minneapolis, Louisville, or any other number of cities that have held police departments and officers accountable for misconduct, but it can't happen in Houston, Harris County, and in this great state of Texas? The issue really is, and we know the answer to that now, whether the criminal justice system can ever in this city hold any police officer accountable for any misconduct, no matter how outrageous. We know the answer, the family does now. Whether anyone can really trust the Houston Police Department to actually conduct an investigation of itself. Whether the city of Mayor, and the family knows the answer to that, why this administration is willing to spend so many millions of dollars to hide from the public the names of the heroes that shot an unarmed, innocent woman dead on her own couch in her own home. We know the answer to that. It's time the public knows the answer as well. Why did the city decide in this particular neighborhood it could get away with what it did to this family? What is it about the neighborhood and why did it? We know the answer now. The public deserves to know now. Why did the city think it would take advantage of a federal judge's order in good faith to protect criminal trials that almost 4 years later have not happened? What the city of Houston did with the physical evidence that the family had to go out and find at Harding Street, whether they even examined it or not, whether the district attorney's office actually used the physical evidence, including what forensic DNA evidence indicated was the fatal bullet that killed Regina Nicholas, fired by someone shooting blind in the house. Whether they, the Texas Rangers, anyone did anything or not with that critical physical evidence that literally was given them on a silver platter. The family knows the answer to that. The public doesn't. What hero shot an unarmed woman on her own couch in her own home who was guilty of no crime from what the forensic evidence that was given to the city, that was given to the district attorney on a silver platter, who that hero is that shot an unarmed woman on her own couch? The family knows. There's no excuse for the public not to know who that hero is. These families will do whatever it takes and have done that today with this important step to make sure that those who are incredibly involved in what's become a long, multi-million-dollar effort without end to prevent the public from knowing what it really needs to know about how justice, its police department, its officers do their job, and they're not going to stop. We'll have some time for questions from Ms. Nicholas. I want to turn it over now to Mr. Bork.
I think Mr. Doyle did a good job of stating what we're trying to do. The big thing is it's time for the public to know what really happened. What really happened when these two innocent people were killed in their own home. They were killed in their own home during a no-knock raid where their front door was kicked down, their home was entered into on the basis of an affidavit that we know, and they've told us, was false. They submitted a falsified affidavit to go in and use it as a basis to conduct this raid. As a result, 2 innocent people are dead. We have been trying for over 3 years to get the city to fully investigate it, to reveal to the public what has happened. What we've been faced with for the last 3 years is obstacle after obstacle after obstacle that has been thrown out by the city. And that's the question we ask. City of Houston, Harris County, why do you not want to tell the public or let the public know what really happened? Why can't you be the ones to lead, such as the city of Louisville, such as the city of Minneapolis, where similar actions happened? Swift action was taken by the city. The public was told what was happening. Millions of dollars were not spent to try to keep the truth from the public eye. What we're asking right now is, City of Houston, Harris County, step up. Do what's right for these families who over almost, we're approaching 4 years ago, whose loved ones were murdered on the basis of a police officer who told an out-and-out lie to have a judge give him the authority to do a no-knock raid on their house. Stop hiding from the truth and let's let the public know what really happened.
I'm Patricia Nicholas. My husband was the late John Nicholas, as he said earlier. He will be deceased a year tomorrow. And I really, really think a lot of this unanswered questions had a lot of bearing on his death. So I'm hoping we can get some kind of justice for him as well as his mother.
Good morning and thank you. My name is Boynton Smith. I represent the Tuttle family. I represent Robert Tuttle, who is Dennis's father. I represent Ryan Tuttle, who is Dennis's surviving son. And I represent the estate of Dennis himself. I appreciate what Mike and Chuck have said. I won't go over all those details again, but many of you will recall in the aftermath of this raid on Harding Street, how concerned neighbors and friends started to gather immediately. They knew something was wrong because they had known Dennis and Reggie for over 20 years. They knew who they were. One of those concerned friends and neighbors put a sign in the front yard near the doorway where this hail of gunfire killed these two people, man and wife, lying in pools of blood within feet of each other for no reason. That sign said simply this. It said, "Justice for the Tuttles." That was 3.5 years ago. The Tuttle family still awaits that justice. They still demand accountability. They want a trial to which they are absolutely entitled under the United States Constitution. We have here with us today remotely Mr. Cliff Tuttle, who was Dennis's uncle. He's the brother of Robert Tuttle. Cliff is the estate administrator. His brother came to him in the aftermath of this tragedy and said to Cliff, I can't do it. I'm too devastated. So Cliff volunteered to be the estate representative and to handle situations like this. Cliff is here to explain from the family's perspective why we're making this decision, as we've done today with the filing in federal court, to dismiss claims against individuals that we know are responsible. I'll let Cliff explain it, but the answer is this is our best clear path to get justice for this family who richly deserves it and who has waited way too long. So if we can get Cliff, or we're going to move in there? Or?
Yeah, we're moving there.
Okay.
And at this point, I mean, I think it's very clear at this point to echo what Mr. Smith, the family, for Tuttle family's lawyer, said is, this is about two things. One is making sure there is no excuse for any delay at all. The fact these individual officers are no longer part of this case takes away any excuse. But more important, for the public, it takes away every excuse that could ever be imagined about actually, we can't reveal what happened that day because the criminal cases have no impact on this at this point. Thanks. We're going to move in.
Take questions.
Want to do questions here?
We'll do questions here. So
Sorry.
Stay here and then we'll go in there.
Oh, wait, it's only moving once. Questions?
You guys aren't saying that these officers, by dropping this, these officers didn't do something wrong, or the Chief Acevedo, and all these people involved didn't do anything wrong. You're just doing this to expedite the trial process to get some justice ultimately. Kind of explain that part of it.
So what's happening today with this filing is, what we're saying is not that these defendant officers individually weren't guilty of incredible misconduct that led to the death of two innocent citizens. We're saying exactly the opposite. That because of the way this has been prosecuted, the family's best shot, and really the public's best shot for getting public disclosure, getting to trial, is to do exactly that and remove them as individual defendants. It doesn't erase their misconduct. It just says, we're going to do what we need to do to get to public trial about what happened as soon as possible, because they're the only ones at this point able to do it.
And what they
misconduct can also still be, obviously, from your perspective, revealed during the court.
correct, and that's the thing. What the city has done is they've used the fact that there are pending criminal charges against these individual officers to put up repeated obstacles to our efforts to have the truth revealed to the public. So by eliminating them as individual defendants in our civil suit, the city no longer has the excuse of There are criminal charges pending against these individual officers, so we can't tell you about what happened. We're going to remove that obstacle, give the city, or take away the city's excuses to quit or to prevent the truth from being publicly revealed.
Mike, Boyd, Chuck, how common is it for a settlement in a civil matter or a verdict in a civil matter to be reached before the criminal component is completed?
I mean, one of the things that really is driving this is there has not been a criminal trial. We know in Harris County through August 2021, there were hundreds of jury trials. Defendant Goins is at home with his family today, and like many of us through the pandemic, was probably spending a lot of time watching Netflix or whatever, but that's not justice. And the fact that right now, almost 4 years after this happened, 3 years after charges, all this transparency, there's still no realistic hope of trial, no matter what setting we've seen. That's what's driving us.
I understand the response. Can you please clarify how often do you see a case on the civil side reach its verdict or get settled prior to the criminal component being completed?
I would say this. I don't know that there's a study that says criminal trials go first, but that's almost always the case. The fact that the family has to take these steps to get where it's needed is incredibly unusual. It shouldn't have to happen. These criminal trials should already have occurred. Folks guilty of crime should be in jail at this point, not just sitting at home.
But there are also methods by which the civil matters can proceed, as has been seen in other cases, while the criminal matters are still ongoing. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish, is take away the city's excuses for revealing the truth about what happened in the civil matter by dismissing the individual claims, the civil claims, against the officers who still have criminal matters pending. We should not have to do this, but we're doing it in response to the city's repeated and constant obstacles that they're putting up, barriers that they're putting up, we would say excuses that they're putting up to keep the public from learning the truth about what happened and why it is that these two innocent people are dead after being killed in their own home.
I'll just add this, Mario. I too do not know the exact statistics on how many. Sorry, I don't know.
Can you look at the cameras too?
Sure, I don't know the exact statistics on how many civil rights cases are settled before the corresponding criminal cases go to trial. In our view, those two do not have to be wed together. The city of Houston has a complete and thorough understanding of what happened, despite their throwing up stop sign after stop sign against these grieving families. They know what happened. They have it within their power to step up and do what's right now, and they haven't done it.
And Mike, real quick follow-up on that. What will the truth show? You say you guys have the truth. What will the truth show?
Well, that's the point. Right now,
From your perspective, from what you have gathered with Maloney and with others, and since we've last spoken with Mr. Maloney in Kansas City, what will the truth show?
here's what I can tell you, and I think that's kind of the point. A federal judge entered what's called a protective order in good faith. The city and its lawyers have made the decision to more or less sweep every bit of evidence inside that. So I know, the family knows. That's kind of the point. That's an abuse of the system. It's an abuse of the judge's good faith order. And that's kind of the really point. We're going to get to trial. We're going to get beyond that as soon as we can, because the city needs to know what's going on. So pretty much every question about who shot who, who's the heroes that shot an unarmed woman, at least from the physical evidence, directly, blindly filing into a house on her couch, we know the answer to that. The city is sitting now on that evidence, and it said the public doesn't get to know. We know. That's why we want to go to trial as soon as we can. That's why we're taking this important step. And pretty much any question you have about, well, why were they there? What was the real reason they were there? Why was this squad allowed to do what it did for so long? That's what is going to come out of the trial, and that's why we need to take this important step, which is setting aside the accountability they so richly deserve to get it out. Because that's part of what this family, actually it's really what's driving this family, and it's driven them from the beginning. Any other questions?
What do you also indicated with regard to the DA's office not getting this trial? prosecuting these officers?
We know at the very beginning of this lawsuit, the district attorney filed what was identified by the federal judge as the first ever response trying to stop the families from the proceeding. The judge denied it. We don't know, and I can't speak to why none of these officers have had a trial for any reason at all, whether in state or in federal court. I can't get in their head, but I do know that every other city that's dealt with this kind of misconduct has dealt with it in a much more timely manner. And we're talking about years now.
Has the family reached out directly to DA Kim Long about this?
We haven't spoken, and obviously, you know, what the district attorney does is what the district attorney does. That's not our job. What our job is to ask for justice and push for answers to be revealed.
And when was the last time you asked for justice to the DA directly about this?
You're talking about the last time we had a conversation?
Yeah, with the DA about, hey, where do things stand?
It became pretty clear, and there was a decision made when the office filed an attempt to stop the family from uncovering anything, get the answers they have now, that it was going to be their decisions and not ours. And it's not really our case to be able to do that. But we've done everything we can on behalf of the family, including hand delivering this evidence that shows a lot of answers that need to be addressed.
Let me just add that for the Tuttle family, the Tuttle family supports Kim Ogg and her troop and their efforts to get these cases to trial. That said, yes, we have questions. Yes, we wish they would push forward and get these cases to trial. There are cases pending, as you all know, against Gerald Goins and Stephen Bryant and 8 or 10 others in state court. There are federal charges, criminal charges pending against Gerald Goins and Stephen Bryant. We don't have control over the timing of that. The families support the desire to hold those people accountable in a criminal court. They're taking steps today that are difficult because they realize they have no control over the timing of the criminal matters. But again, in the civil case, they are 100% committed, shoulder to shoulder, to hold the city accountable for the murders of Dennis and Reggie.
Michael, last question on my end. Do you feel that there is a strategic political strategy here to run out the clock?
I can't talk political strategies. What I can say is,
With regard to an administration, you said the administration has continued to kick things down the road because they have fought you. We know that the current administration's time expires in December of next year. Do you feel that this is a ploy to run out the clock and let another administration deal with this issue?
here's what I can say. The fact is, the administration, the city, has made a deliberate decision to spend millions and millions of taxpayer money on outside lawyers, where so far the only thing that's been done is, from our perspective, is not comply with a federal judge's court order and sweep in all the evidence about what really happened away from the public. When and if or why, I think that's for the public to draw their own conclusions. Any other questions? We want to move in.
Just want to clarify, you said that the family knows specific answers, and you said that who shot them specifically, and you said the real reason as to why they were at the house to begin with. Is that one of the things you guys know as well?
We know at least the stories that were given about why they were there. We know what was said about why they were there. We know the excuses that were given. We know what the stories, as they changed over time, the various officers about why they were there. We know that, but that's part of what, at this point, because of this, what we say is an abuse of the protective order, deliberate decisions by the city, the public doesn't know. And there's really no excuse at this point with this filing for that to continue.
And that's part of our efforts to discover exactly what happened, have been curtailed, or to discover more about what happened and make sure the public knows what happens, have been curtailed by the city's efforts in blocking our attempts for that information to be revealed. Because of you have people named in the suit that have pending criminal charges against them. So by us dismissing the civil claims against those individual parties, we're hoping the city runs out of excuses to prevent that information from being revealed.
Thank y'all. I think Mr. Go ahead. Thanks.
start off there.
Good morning, Cliff. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. And we've made a transition here from the other room. I want to thank you for appearing here today. It may take just a minute for the media to get arranged, and we'll let you know when it's time to make your comments. Okay. You guys let me know when you're ready.
Give us a second.
Okay. Can you say something, please?
Can you crank the volume on it?
So, can you say something? Just say hello, testing. You need to get this volume up? Yeah, yeah. Where's the, coming out of over here? Yeah. Yeah. That's where his is.
What's coming out of that?
All right, should be now.
All right, everybody set? See no objections. Good morning, Cliff. As you heard, and thank you for appearing here remotely to address this important issue. As you heard earlier, I introduced you to all this is Cliff Tuttle. He's the administrator of the estate of Dennis Tuttle. He's Dennis's uncle. He's Dennis's father's brother. And he's here to explain to you from the family's perspective why we're taking these steps while still committed 100% to achieving justice against the city of Houston in a court of law, why we're taking these steps to dismiss the individual defendants. Go ahead, Cliff.
Good morning. My name is Cliff Tuttle. On January 28, 2019, Dennis and Regina were murdered by members of the City of Houston Police Department Narcotics Division using an illegal no-knock search warrant to invade their home on Harding Street. Immediately after that, the city promised complete transparency and a willingness to answer questions about this tragedy. My opinion, either the City of Houston does not understand the definition of transparency, or their promise was an intentional and deliberate lie. As of today, we have met with nothing but appeal after appeal by the city, which has prevented our family's attorneys from conducting depositions under oath for many of the parties involved. As a result of the city's continued efforts for our case to move forward through the court system, we've determined it is regretfully in the best interest of the Tuttle and Nicholas family to approve the dismissal of the officers involved from our civil suit in order to concentrate on the city of Houston and the police department through the federal court system. We continually firmly believe these officers are complicit in the senseless murder of Dennis and Regina, and hope that they will be prosecuted through the Harris County District Attorney's Office in a timely manner. In summary, our family and the Nicholas family, we're not going away. We're not going to be intimidated by the city, and we will one day have our day in court where a judge and jury will bring closure to both families through a guilty party against the city and the police department.
All right. Thank you, Cliff. Thank you very much. All right. All right. Where's our tech guy to turn this off?
Did you want it off or questions?
Does anybody have any questions of Cliff?
Cliff, take us back to that day that this happened. What was going through your mind, and what's been going through your mind since then?
Well, I didn't find out about it the initial day, but after I found out about it, I said, this can't be true. It's unbelievable that they would do that to Dennis and Reggie. It's ridiculous, uncalled for. The way they approached it is, you just can't describe it.
Cliff, the loss of, it's Mario Diaz, by the way. The loss of Dennis and Regina obviously is very emotional and taxing. You can tell by your voice there, but what is the toll of this fight to get answers from the city been like for you?
We need to know who caused it, why they did it, and what the underlying factors were. Dennis and Reggie were at home, not bothering anybody. They break in, start shooting. There are multiple bullet holes inside and outside that house. And they've never answered one question as to what the root cause was and why that person has not been identified.
All right, thank you very much, Cliff. I appreciate your effort this morning.